Welcome once again, viewers of Off the Pitch with TK. We're in studio today, and we've got a special guest. A special guest in a way that, with Off the Pitch, we mainly deal with footballers' issues outside the field. And there's one organization who also their responsibility, or most of the time they deal with issues that players face outside the pitch. We felt it was important that we invite the South African Football Players Union, SAFPU in short, to our studio so that they also share what they experience with players and what is their role in players' lives. So today in studio, we are joined by the SAFPU president, Thulaganyo Haushovedi. I call him Tula in short, because sometimes this Thulaganyo, it gets too long for me. I'm Betty, so it complicates me here and there. Tula, my brother, how's it?
I'm good, TK, and how are you?
No, thanks, man, for making time out of your busy schedule to come and join us. We don't take it for granted. We really appreciate and we are humbled by your presence.
Look, we are humbled ourselves from the SAFPU side that firstly we are considered to be a very special organization. We hardly get such accolades. We appreciate. I think we will spend a lot of time at your studios or off the pitch with TK because they will have good words to say about ourselves. We are really, really humbled.
Thank you very much, Tula. Yeah, we hope this won't be a once-off visit. We hope to have more sessions with you because I believe you are in the forefront when it comes to footballers. You stand for footballers. You exist for footballers, and let's have that relationship. Let's inform the public what you are doing and how are you helping here and there. So, Tula, let's start for somebody who maybe hear about SAFPU for the first time. Can you just elaborate to us what SAFPU's role in football players and what are you guys doing at the moment?
Look, this is one of the most difficult questions to answer, really, as to what SAFPU stands for, who we are as an organization. But I think in a nutshell, we're an organization that represents the interests of the players. The question is, what are those interests? And if we're talking of the rights of the players, what are the rights of these players? In the big scheme of things, you'd know that there are quite a number of stakeholders in the game called football. And we strongly believe that footballers themselves play a very, very important part. You'd hear supporters say, there's no football without them. Referees would say the same thing, coaches and the club bosses. But we strongly believe that as workers, we do have some rights, whether accorded in terms of the Labour's Relations Act of 95 as amended, whether in terms of the Constitution, in particular, when you look at the Bill of Rights, to say, what are our rights? What is it that we can and cannot do? What is it that we need to do in terms of bargaining and so forth? So as an organization, we look at all those fundamental things. You'd know, TK, that previously football rights or footballers' rights were not really considered because you and I, you'd know that we are clustered, in the same as you have your artists and everybody. Because people, when we grow up, we grow playing football to entertain people.
True.
It's not seen as a form of work or something of sort. And as a result, in the process, your rights as a person who plays football are not really considered to be the rights of a worker and so forth. So what we subject ourselves to is to look at those rights. But we are not just a traditional union, that look at that, go on a strike and stuff and all that. We also look at beyond, your playing days to say, as a footballer, what is it that you need to do? We look at issues such as your tax issues. I mean, I think you would have interviewed quite a number of players coming here, and they will tell you that one morning I had 10,000 rand. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had nothing, absolutely.
Yes.
The question is, what is it that we need to do? Is it only the responsibility of those players? Is it because they are blowing their monies without any care, or is there anything that we can do ourselves? And these are some of the things that we're hoping that together with yourself we'll be able to unpack them and say what are the things that ought to be done, what are the measures that we're proposing as the South African Football Players Union. We also look beyond our borders to organize other unions, as we are a member of the of FIFPro, which is the Federation of International Football Professionals. We are, it's divided into 4, which is FIFPro, Africa, Asia, Europe, and Americas. I happen to be the deputy president of FIFPro Africa. But the most important thing there is to say, how do we then focus on issues of development of the game, with, of course, focus also on the development of the game for women. So there's quite a lot of things that we deal with. We will, of course, engage probably in this segment on the issues of what we think about the Super League. Do we think it's a step in the right direction, or what are we saying about it? But in a nutshell, those are the things that we talk about: your minimum wage, the right of players to bargain, health and safety at work. So those are the things that we need to do, even though sometimes we're a bit far, from reaching some of those fundamental gains that we have made.
Yeah. No, that's great. So how is your structure looking, SAFPU? How many members or committee that makes SAFPU?
Look, SAFPU, as it stands, it's remember the organization belongs to workers, which is a workers' parliament. Now, in terms of the structures, you have the highest decision-making body, which becomes the Congress. Then after the Congress, you then have the National Executive Committee, which is comprised of a member from each and every club. So you have about 32 clubs that we are representing at the moment. So in terms of our scope, we take care of professional players, or you may call them semi-professional, whichever way you want to, which side of the divide you're on. Now, we also, of course, extend our services to your lower leagues, to amateur leagues, whose responsibility is SAFA. Your ABC, SAB, we assist them when it comes to matters of contractual issues. But in terms of the structure, that's the Congress, the National Executive Committee, then you've got the National Office Bearers. And the National Office Bearers is comprised of, former players and current players. So that's how the structure then, we allocate in terms of what the Constitution says. So that's it. One of the things that we have failed dismally on, and we're working very hard to correct, is the inclusion of women in the structure of football. But when you just look in terms of work, people who are working, yes, you do have women, but in positions of, in decision-making position, we're running a bit short in terms of that. But we're very encouraged the other time when we learned that SAFA has started with a pilot project with regards to women. We've continued engaging with them in terms of what is it that we can do, how to organize them, but also make sure that they become part and parcel of the process. Because in this day and age, you can't move without having women in your structure or empowering women. We are fighting for their rights. We're talking about their rights to say, let's have equal pay, equal rights. But you cannot just be talking for them without them being part and parcel of the structures. So in terms of the structure, that's where we are. But yes, the downfall in terms of our structure from where we're sitting as SAFPU, we think it's around the issue of women, even though we are doing very good work around that to ensure that they are included in the structure. But we do work with them at national level. We have discussions around them. We assist when it comes to issues of contractual discussions, whether it's about big tennis. We do sit and have discussions with them.
Okay. So, Mr. President, while you are on the issue of women's football, I think you just mentioned that you are now representing 32 teams, which I believe is 16 NFD and 16 PSL. There is a women's football now. Have you not get into the space? Because if there is a women's football league that they play almost, I think, every weekend, Are you not considering them as workers also, so that you get to recruit and get into their space?
But you're raising a very important question, TK. You see, in general, we've got a challenge on the continent. Or let me just say in terms of women development worldwide and on the continent in particular. Because women are not really organized, properly organized. Whether you can look at the national squad and so forth, it's made up of players who play for amateur leagues in different countries. Of course, we'll get also to the male football on the continent, as we know that it's probably different from what we know here in South Africa, as the way we look at it. Now, the women football, it's mainly amateur. And this is one of the discussions that we have had at the level of FIFA, at the level of CAF. So how do we redefine the issue of women, professionalism, or whether you want to call them amateur and so forth? How do you deal with that? What are the basic things that you need to deal with? One of the things that we do agree with them on is that at least they must have a contract. Just a contract, whether they get remunerated and so forth and not, when we will be able to deal with other things. But at the level of SAFPU, what we have agreed was that either way we must organize women, whether they are at the amateur level or the professional, we must do that, because we know that the playing fields are not properly leveled. So if we are going to focus on them and we want to organize them once they turn professionals, we're going to find a bit challenge. But there's where the problem comes. In terms of labor, anyone who belongs to a union must be a worker. You've never heard of a union of non-workers.
Correct.
Now you have women who are not necessarily remunerated. How do we then organize them to ensure that they then fall within the definition of them being organized?
Yeah.
All those things said, we continue as the SAFPU to organize in that particular field. We're very encouraged, of course, with the piloting of this league. But we still believe that it is not enough. And this is where SAFPU's voice must be heard, to say what is, we thought, by the way, that this would have been one of the things that would have been raised during as we're building up towards Congress, also at the Congress of the South African Football Association, to say this is where they are. They would have spoken about Vision 2022, how far they would have come with that issue of building for women. Because organizing is one thing, but also making sure that the playing fields are leveled is a totally different matter. And we're hoping that in terms of the vision that we're given to us, the 2022 vision, we would be sitting here and saying, though, a lot has been done. And we are not going to Gaskoa. There's a guy that I used to play football with, it's called Fire Mkwabani, or Fire Kwabani, somewhere there. He says, don't throw the child with the bath water, or something like that.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying there are a lot of shortcomings and the shortfalls with regards to this league as it is organized. But our responsibility is to continue engaging with stakeholders such as government, engaging with SAFA to ensure that football is professionalized. So that it's not only about us organizing and having the numbers in our books, but it's ensuring that those numbers that we have do also reflect, the state of better living for those players that we deal with. So the question should be, in our view, what is it that needs to be done to ensure that women football, in general and in general, it's at the level where at least male football is, which then brings us to quite a number of things, such as your sponsorship, to say, how do you then deal and bring up the issue of sponsorship? But before you even get to sponsorship, is government really doing enough? Are we sitting with a government that begins to say to us, we are trying to do something and we are going to make sure that all the playing fields are leveled and ensure that our children, generations to come, will then be the beneficiaries of something that has been started some years and generations ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I move to the next point, I just want to understand something on this women's football. Are you saying at the moment the league that we see that has a sponsor, is it a pilot? If it's yes or no, and does this sponsor piling money into this women's football? And if yes, why are these players not having contract to say, we are signed a contract with a particular team and we are employed, at least we've got a minimum income coming in? Because from what I'm understanding, it seems like there is no contract of employment for these players who are playing week in and week out with a sponsor backing up the league.
It's very, very difficult. You would know that with women football, initially you had a SASOL. There was a SASOL league,
yes.
What we call SASOL league.
Yeah.
It died slow death. Those leagues are not professionalized. That's the unfortunate part. You have, yes, answering your question, yes, this was piloted before COVID, if you recall. There were about 12 teams that would have been included in that pilot to say, this is what we are going to do, and COVID happened. When COVID happened, there was just a whole load of silence around the issue of women football. There would have been about 5 million that was given from the Department of Sports. When that lady, the former Minister of Sports, I'll remember her. I'll remember the minister's name. She's the one who would have championed that part. But after that, everything just went down. SAFA has not really taken the baton to go out there and look for a proper sponsorship to run this league that is called women football. So that's where we are currently in terms of getting those particular sponsorship and be able to run a fully fledged league. Now, and I'll always move from one point to the next, especially let's try to draw comparisons so that we get to understand.
Yeah.
You are sitting currently with male football that's been played for the longest of time. You have the National First Division just got a sponsorship the other day called Mutsepe Foundation. It's been struggling. You have the amateur leagues that have got no sponsors whatsoever. That needs to produce. They're supposed to be a feeder, by the way, for the National First Division. There is no money around there to run the issues of football. The question is, who's responsible? Who's supposed to be dealing with those issues of finances to ensure that we have structures that are proper? Now you are sitting with male football that is not truly professionalized in terms of running the leagues, the clubs. I mean, when you go to this SAB, ABC, you'll see how difficult it is to run just a structure or just to run a football club in that space. I mean, you would have heard going to the SAFA Congress that there were a lot of LFAs that were owed money. So there is no money, as we are told. But we were also told that the people who are going to get some honorarium as to what they did. What is it that they did to deserve that honorarium? It's a different matter altogether that at some point we must unpack and say, why are people getting that when football, in terms of development, it's really struggling. But the funny part is, you have Banyana that is currently playing at the women's AFCON in Morocco, and they are doing very well. They're doing very well because with some lady luck, I don't know how they got it, but with some lady luck is that they're in that squad. I think there are about 8 players who are playing outside the country who have moved from via other divisions going into Europe and so forth and play football now is there. But in terms of administering football here at home, you can do that work. You can speak to your research department and check. There is absolutely no professional football. You are asking a very important question. Why are they not having contracts? Your case is as good as mine because these people are supposed to be getting. Others are not even being paid. Those who are going to be better will be that Janine van Veek, the team, Sundowns, at least because they're getting paid.
Yeah.
You've had Celtics that's also getting paid. But the rest of these other teams are not necessarily even from your big teams like your Chiefs or Pirates or so, but they are really struggling. So there is no professionalization of women football in the country, as it were. So we don't have a professional league, but we've got a pilot that is, we are trying to check whether, or SAFA is trying to check whether this will work and how best will it work.
Yeah.
But we'll forever have these problems if we don't address the issues such as your sponsorship, which government must play a very important role in that, and SAFA must also deal with that. But we've got, in my view, a very useless department. Department of Sport, in that they are not really playing the role that they ought to play to ensure that all the playing fields are level.
Yeah, but I believe in your next Congress or resolutions, you're going to put pressure on professionalizing women's football.
We have started that process. We are talking to all stakeholders. We are doing our level best. We have engaged this process right now through FIFPro. As we speak now, we have sent the delegation to Morocco that would have interviews and discussions with different teams that are playing in Morocco to say how best to professionalize. And we said maybe one of the best things is to start at the level of national squads. In terms of women traveling, because when they travel, they don't travel like your main players. They are not. They don't go into camp much earlier like your male counterparts.
Yeah.
They do not get a better. In terms of the prize money when they win, it's a far cry from what male players are really getting and so forth. So that's where this whole thing is. But I do agree with you. What we need to do is to pile more pressure, engage at the level of care, hoping that parties and they will be able to provide the necessary leadership that we require, so that whatever we need to do and ought to happen on the in South Africa, it should also be reflective of what needs to happen on the continent, so that we do not run in South Africa only and we have structures that is professional and better, and only to find that within the region, let's just take the SADC, there's absolutely nothing that's happening with regard to the development of the game. But you are quite correct that we just need to give a pressure. In the next Congress, we will not be taking a resolution, but we should be giving a report back to Congress to say, in terms of the resolution that we would have taken, that talks about spearheading and championing the right of women. This is what we have done. And if we fail in that regard, then Congress will have to decide what they do with the leadership that I had said to them. These are the things that we will do and push. We've done everything in our power, and Congress will be the judge. And if they feel that we have not done enough, then they will have the right to take whatever decision they want.
Okay. Mr. President, let's get to the players' recruitment. How do you recruit players within these 32 teams that you currently representing or hoping to represent? How's your recruitment process, and what are the requirements for a player to be a member of SAFPU? How do you go about it?
TK, we've signed what we call the collective bargaining agreement with the Premier Soccer League. And those are the rights that, of course, have been accorded to us in terms of the Labour Relations Act. But that allows us the opportunity to meet up with clubs. So in terms of the recruitment process, what we've agreed with the clubs was that we will meet at least twice a year. The first period where we're going to meet with the players would be around this time, the pre-season time. And the second time probably would be around
mid-season?
Mid-season, just after Jan, you know?
Yeah.
So those becomes the formalized times. But of course, We do agree and meet with them on an ad hoc basis, depending on what is important at that particular time. What are the issues that we need to deal with? Are there any financial issues that needs to be addressed? Are there any contractual matters, issues of psychology, and so forth? Now, these ones we have agreed with them because what we had experienced before was that clubs would always say, when you want to go and recruit, once the league starts, they'll say, we are preparing. We've got a game on Monday. We've got a game this and that. And you find that there are 3 or 4 days before the game. No, we want the players to focus. And we were like, but you guys, you speak as if the only thing that the players do before the match is to think about the game. Which is not the reality. The reality is that you are dealing with individuals that have got other facets of life that they need to attend to. When after training, they've got other things to do. And each time we asked to meet with the players, they thought. But that was used just to stop the organization really from meeting up with the players. But we then found a common ground to say, we now know that in Jan, the season would not, during preseason, the season would not have. Then we sit, this is the time that we then go and recruit. What's required to become a player as a member of the organization? You sign a form, and that form you pay about 100 Rand to become a member of the organization, which is monthly, because we've got quite a number of, that 100 Rand compared to a number of things that we do for them, it's just a drop in an ocean.
So it's just 100 Rand?
It's 100 Rand a month for every player, you know. Now, in that, we take you to school. We've got a bursary that, as an organization, we offer you SAFPU bursary. We've got financial literacy programs that we give to you. We give you advice in terms of your contracts. We have a relationship with Lifeline, South Africa, where when you've got some challenges, you need psychological help, because we know that mental health, it's a serious thing. It's a very difficult thing because a whole lot of things happen. There's a lot of pressures that come with you being a professional footballer. Now, when you're a professional footballer, you're expected to do some of the things. And simply because most of these players, when they turn pro, no one would have taken them through the ABCDs of life. And nobody tells them what is it that they need to do. Nobody tells them where to find off the pitch with TK when they went off the pitch with TK. Nobody tells them where to go. They learn as they, go forward. But sometimes they find themselves in serious difficulties. Remember, TK, we are dealing with youth. These are young people. The difference between footballers, young footballers, and young entrants into the working space is this. A footballer is going to play for 10 years if they are fortunate. But this one can work for the next coming 30 years, 40 years. They do the same things. They're affected by the same things. If they want to have fun, they both have fun. If they make wrong decisions, this one whose life span is around maybe 3 to 10 years might be very difficult for them to correct. But this one can have those mistakes. But over a period of in the 30 years, the first 10 years, he might spend it, with trial and error. But this one who is a footballer doesn't have that. So we felt that it is important for us to create a home for these players so that they can engage. It doesn't have to be Tulahan, because I don't want them talking to me about real life issues, professional way. We organize a person who would say to me, wait a minute, TK, here you are going off the cliff. This is what you must do. You've done this and that and the other. And sometimes you are talking of somebody who has never had 2 rand in his pocket, but today they have They've got all what they need to do. So I'm just going back to say, what does this really entail? So we have life bursary, life skills, financial issues, but we also have advanced driving. When you realize that a lot of players, one death was one death too many. Where players were passing on, we then agreed to have an advanced driving course that we do with the players. Say, let us go. Let us deal this. Let us work together so that they learn how to drive, because driving is not only getting behind that wheel and start driving. One of the things that we are also encouraging them, encouraging and discouraging to a particular level, it's for those who've got passion for coaching, whilst they are still playing, to get their badges. I'll make a very simple example. This year, I think around May, if I'm not mistaken, the Belgian squad, all those players, your Lukaku's, your De Bruyne, Vermeer, they've got their A licenses. Now, when you deal with that squad, you are dealing with people who've got the A licenses, coaching and the UEFA licenses.
And they're still playing.
Now, they are preparing. And how would you know whether you are interested in playing the game, in becoming a coach or not? Get a course, do a D license. We say to them, just take a D license and check whether, and test yourself, whether is this what you want to do. Do you want to go and run after the kids after your playing days? Or what do you want to do? Because sometimes when we pitch an issue of coaching, we pitch it at a very high level. Let's say, no, you'll be coaching Chiefs, you'll be coaching Pirates. But that's not where it starts. It starts with you coaching young ones. So we're saying, whilst you have time, once you have the opportunity, where the union can still pay for you, study. Do your D license, check whether you like it. Is this what you like? No, we don't. If you don't, we have engaged, we've started engaging with UEFA, by the way. There's a UEFA of the transition programs that they are doing. Now, with these transition programs, the UEFA, you choose what to become once your playing days are over. One of the things that you can do is to become an agent. They take you through the course, you become an agent or you become a pundit. You sit and you analyze the game. What is this analysis that you need to give when you talk about the game? So there are those structures, and they are more than willing to work with us. So these are some of the things that we are exposing the players to say we need to do these things so that all of us, we grow together and we become better players. We need leaders. Right now, TK, we've been talking about, let's just go back to the issue of the SAFA presidents. Each time we talk about it, people will say, but players don't have experience. Players are not going to do that. I can tell you that clubs are not going to give players any administrative experience. We're saying, let us work, let us prepare, let us learn, and you have got an organization that you can start going on, and do what you need to do. Do your batches, do your administrative courses. If you want to become a lawyer, become a lawyer. There's a boy here, Tristan Cotier. Just to mention one, he did LLB using the SAFPU bursary. Your Mires, they've done their batches and their courses using SAFPU bursary. Now, these are the people at the time when they were still playing, but they continued in doing that. Right now, they are able to do certain things that they need to do. So our issue is very simple. If we work together, we must always remember, or as footballers, we must always remember that we are not going to hang on to that mic for long. In this position, you see that chair there you are seated. You can sit there. I see you only have got black hair. But you can sit on that chair until your hair is gray.
Correct.
But those boys are not going to run in that field until their hair is red. Their destiny, by the way, is not in their hands normally. Because the clubs are the ones who decide whether they want this player to play for that team for years to come or not.
Yeah.
So what option do they have? The only option they have is that let them make sure that during their playing days they become better. They must always remember that they are brands. Because sometimes we want to work on this brand. How many players have we had? Maybe how many players have come here and say to you, no, we want to venture into business. I've got a foundation. If you ask them, what has the foundation done? How old is the foundation? You'll realize that, hey, it's only now that these guys are doing the foundation when they no longer have airtime.
Yeah.
Now, our role and responsibility is to make sure that we teach them, we encourage them, we work with them to have foundations long before they retire, so that they get to learn and understand how these things are done. By the way, footballers are not very stupid. They are not stupid people. However, footballers, like any other individual in life, they receive mostly wrong advices, because you'll be told that, no, inject your money at the off the pitch with TK. But what is off the pitch with TK going to help me with? If I inject money tomorrow off the pitch with TK, God forbid, it's liquidated. Then my money is gone. It's gone. Because we don't understand exactly where we need to do. Sometimes it's about the decisions that they make. And sometimes it's not because they've got the money. When you've got 20,000 rand, TK, you can buy a car, any top car. But the question is, the decision that you need to make with that 20,000, is it the one that's going to get you a top car? Or is it the one that's going to say, get a car that you move from A to B? Or don't even buy a car, buy a house and deal with that. So we are the victims of the decisions that we make. It is not because most of these players, they've got a lot of money and they are wasting money that they would have made. Yeah, those who are fortunate enough to get the money and they blow it. And we can't defend that, you know. But most of these players, you'll find that they do have, they don't have money, but they make wrong decisions. But again, a lot of them do not get the necessary money or the salaries that they ought to be getting at this level. Because when you get paid, whether you are paid 10,000 or 15,000, whatever decision you take on the 10,000 would make people think that you have maybe the money or a lot of money. But I can tell you firsthand that a lot of these players are not getting the kind of money that will secure their future going forward. So we must help them make proper decisions with the 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20,000 that they receive to be able to live longer and become a better people. But it's not only that. There are also issues of your taxes that we must look into to say, how does government really assist? Because when I stop playing football, I'm not going to earn pension, because I'm a retired person at 23, 25. But I've been paying my taxes. I've been paying just like any other person for the past 10 years. I'm 30 now, I'm retired. I cannot withdraw, or I cannot draw pension from the money that I've been getting. What happens? We have raised this issue to say we then need issues of sports tax. To say, as a sports tax, it means if I'm charged 40% or 30%, government can always charge me about 20% and take the 10%, make a kitty. We've done a research on that. It is very possible. We've done a research. We've compared how the players live in Europe in terms of their retirement, how to invest their money in Europe, and what do they, may his soul rest in peace. Ungonga, if you remember, had said, Anel had said, now he's got about, he'll be having maybe 13 or so meter when he reaches a particular age, which is 35. Because all those players, all the players that you see play in Europe, the monies that they take, we've bounced this idea with the league. We have discussed it with the league. We've agreed to take this forward to ensure that
Sorry about that. We had a bit of load shedding, so we're coming back from generator back to ESCOM. So That's why maybe we had a bit of a glitch. But Mr. President, I was very impressed with the programs that you've outlined in terms of a member of SAFPU get to benefit, right? And I think in the next segments, we'll go deep into them because these are nice and interesting programs. But the question I will ask is, who's affiliating to them? Who's subscribing to them? Because you might have all these nice features as a SAFPU member, but you find that people are not making use of them. But I think we'll discuss that in the next segment. I just want to get again clarity in terms of recruitment. You said you go pre-season. So I will assume you will go to a particular team on a certain date, gather all the players, present your organization, and from there, whoever is interested, do they talk to you immediately on the spot that I want to join, or there is a way they can reach out to you behind closed doors, Guti, I want to be the member of SAFPU?
No, absolutely. What we do is we, at this point, we would have sent out letters to the 32 clubs, requesting to meet with them, giving them the subjects that we want to talk to them. But the most important thing there also is to get feedback from members. So say in the previous term, this is what we've done. But also tell us what is it that you want to see us do going forward. Remember, we get the mandate at Congress, but that mandate must be renewed all the time. Part of renewing the mandate is during this, through this visits that we're going. So we'll meet up with them, have a discussion, maybe 1 hour 1 hour 30 to 2 hours. Still have a discussion. We discuss matters. This is where we are. This is what we want to do. And at the end of that, would then give them forms for them to fill in, to say, do you want to become a member or not? We always encourage them to take up membership with the organization. We know that there would have been a number of agents who would have been hostile towards that and stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things, the difference between us and the agents in the main is that when Club A owes a player, whether you are a Baroka, you are a Chiefs, you are a Pirates Sundowns, you are Royal AM, when they owe a player, we are able to take a call firstly and ask the club, we've got player A who says you owe them. Please, what's the problem? Can we resolve it? If we agree, most of them we are able to resolve and then pay the player. To the extent that they do not agree, then we take the matter forth. But what we have, the difference is that with us, we go all the way. Respectfully so, but we go all the way up until we get what's rightfully the players. But sometimes with agents, because they still need to go and play in that pond, they are unable sometimes to really fight with I would not even say fight, but go a distance with the club to say, but you owe the player that I represent, pay his money. If you don't, this is what will happen. Because if you do that, some clubs would say to you, no, but okay, it's fine. We see that you are very troublesome. We'll never do business with you. Remember, with the agent today, if they lose TK, they will sign fire. If they lose fire, they will sign Penny. If they lose Penny, they will sign Tulahan.
Yeah.
That's how they work. Now, what we encourage them is to say, just sign and become a member. We have experienced this in the past. Others will say, no, we're going to meet up with them, we'll tell the agent, and they don't sign up, take up the
membership.
The membership.
Yeah.
When they don't take the membership, they'll come at a later stage for us to represent them. And what we'll do as an organization, and which we have said, we have expressed this thing with aiming at the level of Congress also to say, one of the things that we'll do, we'll have to charge them seriously. They will have to pay a lot of money for us to represent them as a player. And tomorrow they must not say, as a member, they had a problem. You'll hear them, some will hear them calling you. Member, what do? You must know that there are some challenges. Then you do that. But I can tell you that the 99.99% of the players, not 100%, each time we sit down with them, we talk to them, they do agree, then they take up the membership of the organization and they become member. It's not such a big thing. They know the need, and why they should belong to the organization, because the organization remains relevant to this particular day.
Yeah.
So that's what it is in terms of us getting, the player taking up the membership of the organization. So that's how we deal with it. And I can promise you that one day we'll invite you just to come and see this process, say, we are going to meet with Team A, just come through and see the process. So that we sit, we have an engagement, we talk about these issues, and maybe probably even invite you to some of the programs that we do, so that you come and cover those programs and speak, firsthand with these players, so that you hear, so that we are not seen as the spin doctors here. You are able to hear it firsthand from the players to say, this is what the organization is doing, this is what it has done for us, and this is what it continues doing for ourselves.
Great. So, you've mentioned agents that sometimes players want to consult and they might block players from joining. And I believe also you had challenges with teams who will not want you to come to recruit their players. Is it still happening, and how are you going around it, where the team is just deliberately blocking you guys to enter and recruit from their team, and also agents?
Look, we've had quite a number of challenges in the past. And we strongly believe that the signing of the collective bargaining agreement was the beginning of good things. Yes, of course, things are not changing overnight. Sometimes clubs are not saying to you, do not come to the club. But they would always say to you,
diplomatically,
we're still busy here, we're still doing that. But what it requires, we take a call. We've made peace with that. We take a call, holler them, guys, please, we want to come see the players. No, you can be part and parcel of the meetings. And we do invite the clubs, by the way, to our meetings. The only difficulty sometimes with that is that sometimes players don't feel free talking about issues. But to the extent that we are there and we make a presentation, we don't mind the clubs being there. So we're saying to them, it's okay, we're there, you want to be part of this, listen, this is the presentation that we're going to do. We'll make a presentation. If we need to talk to the players for the whole hour without them responding at that point, we will do that, the clubs listen. But we will also request them to excuse us so that the players can feel free and deal with that. But in the event we are unable to do it at that point, then the players can always reach us. They know how to reach us. They can call us. They can email and WhatsApp us. And we have discussions, proper discussions in terms of how we deal with things. I think things have improved, much better from what they were previously. And but we still believe that they can even become much better. So that just at a click of a button, you are then able to reach them and so forth. You know that previously we had some challenges as well. When we went to try and recruit that Cosmos, things were closed. So we've always been there. 1 minute, we are good, because the clubs also, they need us. If, let's say, Tuks, for an example, wants a player from Cape Town All Stars, that player normally comes to SAFPU, and SAFPU will get the clearance. Because if we get a clearance for a player, we don't sign that player. That player will then get employment from Tuks without Tuks really having to fight with Cape Town All Stars or the other team fighting with each other. So we've got that relationship, and we are building that. But one of the things that we've agreed, and we normally agree and we emphasize to them, is that they must know that we must agree to disagree. That we are going to disagree somewhere. Somewhere we are going to agree, because we might not see things the same.
Yeah.
But to the extent that we disagree, there are recourse, and we have done that. And one of the things, TK, that we have done, by the way, through this CBA, would have been the agreement to start the National Dispute Resolution Chamber, the NDRC. So the National Dispute Resolution Chamber is a body that it's a tribunal where we take our cases. If there's a player, we've got CCMA in the normal working space. So now we do have the National Dispute Resolution Chamber, which is in line with FIFA rules. When you look at FIFA Article 1010 and Article 1129, that talks precisely about how to form this, which talks about equal representation from the employer, which is the clubs, and equal representation, which is 50-50 from the union. So an independent chairperson. So at this point, we've got 2 independent chairpersons. Players take their cases there for free. They used to pay about 1.4 for their case to be heard. But the argument has always been, but where do you expect them to take the money? Because they can't take their employers to task when they don't have the money, because the employer would not have paid them.
Yeah.
Because most of those cases that we take there are the due payables, Players are not paid their salaries and stuff, and we need to take it there. So we established that dispute resolution chamber in line with those FIFA things. It's working, it's proper, it's in its second, actually we entered into its 3rd year running, but so far we've done. So those are some of the gains that we have made as an organization, to say we have this. We had a DRC before, but it was not, it didn't have an independent chairperson, because the chairperson was appointed by the league. And in terms of representation, was not 50-50, and the players still had to pay for the cases and so forth. So those are some of the gains that we have really made as an organization, and we are very proud of the gains that SAFPU has made. And but we still believe that there's still a whole lot of things that needs to be done. If we can achieve that aspect, where we're going to have a very complete footballer and an educated player, in the true sense of that word, completely in terms of his physical fitness, in terms of his awareness financially, and in terms of his awareness contractually. I mean, we normally discourage these players. I mean, not discourage per se. We normally hit them hard and say, you can't make proper financial decisions. But we know that for you to be able to make decisions, you must be taught.
Yeah.
You must go through these courses financially. You know as much as I know. In every profession, people train, including football. They practice free kicks.
Yeah.
Your best players, Messi's, they miss it all the time. I forgot the other person, but let's stick to Messi for now. When they practice, they hit them, they miss those free kicks. The Ronaldos, they miss the free kicks. But they train every day. So sometimes they don't make the right decision that will get into the net.
Yeah.
Now, what more of these players who financially they are not strong, they are not trained on a daily, they train once or twice when they sign a contract.
Yeah.
We expect them to make wrong decisions, but there must be a recourse. And what is it that we are doing, all of us, to ensure that we are going to get them and get them back into, in line and being able to make those proper decisions that we ought to do. So the job is by, but it's one of those things that we need to do. But we need yourselves. We need to partner with yourselves so that we are able, through these channels, to let's educate these people. Because sometimes it's not all about hammering other stakeholders, but it's about telling the truth and saying, this is the shortcomings of the stakeholders, or this is the shortcomings of the league, there's the shortcomings of the association. How do we then build going forward. Because remember, this generation that has done, they've done a lot of good. As much as there are a lot of things that we need to correct, we are the generation that needs to begin to see how do we then prepare going forward, so that generations that are still going to take after us are able to make sure that this very same product that is football, this is the only black product or the black business that we can all be proud of and say, this one is this in Texas, I think.
Texas.
That we really need to guard it jealously. So that's where we are. That's where we are. We must concern ourselves with issues TK the succession. To say who's going to succeed the chairman of the league, who's going to take over after the president of SAFA. We must be concerned. We must talk about those things. We must be worried. And yourselves, you must be worried if SAFPU is quiet, is not talking about these things. You must ask them, SAFPU, what are you saying?
And those are the things that we'll continue to discuss in our next sessions. I'm about to close this session, but I think I've got one last question I hope you'll be able to give me. I'm interested in numbers. Let's say the past season, how many, I don't know if you know numbers in terms of how many players out of were subscribed, or percentage, PSL, NFD, and maybe which team has more members?
You see, my what is this thing? My principals will be very mad with me if I don't know these numbers. They will say, how can I be put in a position to lead this organization and I don't know the numbers? The numbers that we sitting with at this point, and these numbers are on the backdrop that we have had some difficulties, by the way, in the past two years, the COVID period. Because we could not go recruit, we could not do this and that. We used the social media, virtual, just to recruit and so forth. We've got about 793 players at this point that belong to the organization. We still need to go out and recruit. Remember, we lost, right now there are two clubs that we lost, Cosmos and Sporting. So we've lost membership there. We must go and reconcile. So how do we then reconcile? There are two teams that have come on board. We must go and recruit and sit down with those teams, explain to them who we are, what's required, what is it that they need to do, what are we offering, but we must also continue recruiting for the current clubs or where we have membership goes on. So most of these teams where we are able to sit and have discussion with them, we are able to get the necessary numbers. But I think our call and our plea would be that players must always understand and remember that this union, it's not ours. It's their union. And without their support, we are nowhere. They need to participate in these structures. And through these organizations, they are then able to play a meaningful and an important role, as we, on the continent and everywhere else. You would know that right now you have Samuel Eto'o, who's the president of an association. DJ Drogba, unfortunately, things didn't go accordingly to become the president of Ivory Coast. And in all these, we are in touch with them because Didier Drogba is a life president of, honorary president of FIFA Africa. So we would engage and I think at that level there's a desire and the hunger for people to participate in the space that they operate in. So we must, as footballers, come together, sit and see what is it that we want to do. But whatever we do, it has to be a disciplined process. It must not be a process that is informed by sometimes a personal glorification or a hunger of some sort. But it must be disciplined in the sense that We know what we want. We know what needs to be done. And if we are together, we'll then be able to achieve quite a number of things. But if we are not going to get there, then there's a problem. So we are currently working, and we're hoping to meet with the president of SAFA when he comes back from Morocco to have a discussion around what his views are. I mean, we failed to meet with him before, because he said we'll meet, we never did. We sent him a message, he said we'll meet when we come back. But you see, what does he have in store for South African football development-wise, from our players, how to deal with that? Because one of the things we wanted to discuss with him was for him to work with us as the president, not because it's him, but because he's the president of SAFA. And we work with government to say, how do they help us to deal with also issues of school sport and everything. So we're hoping that things will be okay. We're hoping that these players will listen to the call that we're making, participate. They must also participate at the locals whilst they can, you know, because once you are at the locals, before you know it, you are in those decision-making bodies. Because the challenge in football, TK, as I close, is this. You yourself not having played football, myself not having played football, Fire not having played football, we are then able to go, because we've got money, we buy a club. Once we buy a club, we've already bought our way into the decision-making body of football in the country. Now we sit there, you've got your financial background, which does not necessarily have football. I'm from mining, he's from agriculture, you know. So we get there, we get in the boardroom, and our understanding and how we see things might be totally different from what we do. So if we can have people who are able to influence football, influence structures properly, then we'll do that. But I think for us to achieve that, we need the current players. You know, we need the former players to come back together, rally behind this SAFPU, and make sure that it delivers and gives them what it really ought to be given.
Yeah. No, thanks very much, President. I think let's close this session here. Then we'll have a next session where we'll deep dive into some other issues that you touched.
No, absolutely. We would want to talk to those things. We will, it's definitely, because as SAF, we have strong views on issues such as your Super League. What is the Super League? I mean, we have got your CAF, the Confederation Cup, we've got the CAF World Cup, and what is this? Who is it going to benefit? And why are we seeing what we're seeing? And whose project is this?
Whose idea is this?
Whose idea is this? We don't think it's being the CAF idea, by the way. We think we know that it should be a FIFA thing as well. But when we speak to that, we'll raise those views. We'll raise them very sharp. We'll talk about those views. For we know that this is a Super League. They say the Super League is going to do this, going to give that. Roughly, people, I know that the winner might get about 25 to 30 million USD. Of that team, they're going to be. We understand is that it's going to be 24 teams. So and also who qualifies from each country to be in that Super League. But also, what is the interest of those in those particular countries? Because then it would mean that the leagues in those different countries must sanction participation of the clubs that used to be How are they going to do that?
Yeah.
And who's going to agree? So, which means there's a whole lot of things.
Great.
It might be implemented by a European company, this, that, and that. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about all those things.
No,
Once we're
that's
still alive.
yeah, that's fine. No, it will be. We don't take long here to get into issues. But thanks a lot. And we'll end this session here with the SAFPU president. Look out for the next session. This will be a continuous engagement. As I said, there are topics that we want to engage with them. And as anything that involves football and players pops up in this country, they have to come forth and give us the view and where they stand with such an issue. From me, TK, it's a wrap. Let's meet on the next session. Thank you very much.